12 teacher life hacks, the little things that make our job just that little bit easier, whether it's saving us time or helping us better support our students and support them more efficiently. So let's get straight into it. Number 1, marking and feedback. Make sure you and your TAs are armed with a pen and mark as much as you can during the lesson. It allows students to have instant feedback and also saves you so much time after the lesson because you've already done quite a bit of marking in the lesson. Now, my amazing TAs do this for me every lesson. They go around my maths and English lessons and they mark work as students complete it for me. So I just have to flick through and have a look at the end of the lesson before the next lesson to see where my students are at and what they need a little bit more guidance and help with. And it's much better for your students' progress because they get that instant feedback there and then, instant direction to help them iron out those inconsistencies immediately, pretty much straight away in your lesson. You don't have to worry about coming back to it a week later if you don't see them for another week or 3 or 4 days, when by then it might not really seem relevant to them anymore. It's too far in the past for them to be able to remember what they did, basically, because a lot of students need instant feedback rather than wait a week later to get the feedback from the teacher. Number 2, if you work with students who are self-conscious about you giving them feedback in front of other students, then what I have done in the past with my sixth formers, because they work on Chromebooks, I actually make comments on their work during the lesson to provide them with instant feedback. That way, they don't have to feel self-conscious or embarrassed about me giving them feedback in front of everybody because I'm doing it personally and no one else knows about it. Okay, so it's really great for those students that are quite self-conscious and they don't like being given feedback publicly in front of everybody. Now, it's easier to do this when they're working on a computer because, like I said, you can comment on their work. I do everything through Google Drive, Google Classroom, so I can access their work instantly and immediately. However, if you're working in books, still in classrooms and worksheets, what you could do is you could have your TAs working with small groups, just glancing at their work, looking at what they're doing, and rather than giving them feedback there and then, they can write a little note on a piece of paper for them and hand it to them. So then at least it's done in a way that's discreet and not obvious to everybody else. Number 3, get students to do as much as possible, My amazing students, I train them to literally come in, take the books and hand it out. And a different person does it every lesson. They just go in, grab the books and hand it out. If they see that I haven't put the books on the table, they will do it for me. And it's brilliant. It saves me so much time. I've got students that write dates on the board for me. And again, it's good literacy skill for them as well. And they do it in the full word format, Monday, 27th July, 2023, for example. And they do it in the number form. So get students to do as much for you as possible, whether it's hole punching their sheets, stapling their sheets, cutting and sticking things in, gluing things in. These are really important life skills as well. I teach in an SEM provision and I train my students to be able to do this so that they're developing independent skills and can do things for themselves. So they're really good life skills as well. Number 4, learn to use your Google hacks, your Google shortcuts on Chromebook, on Google Drive, because this will save you so much time. Now, there is a video in my membership site, Thames Teaching Tips, where you can access this content, access this video on the different Google shortcuts that I have used in my lessons and that I have taught my students in my lessons. Because you'd be surprised that some students don't know what Control F means, what Control Print will help them do, Control P will help them do. So teach them these little hacks so that it makes it easier, way easier for you when it comes to planning your lessons because you're using all these little shortcuts, but also make things quicker in your lessons with your students, especially those students that are working on the computer, of course. Not everybody uses Chromebooks or computers in schools, but for those of you that do, use these little computer hacks, these shortcuts, these Google Chrome, Google Drive shortcuts that will help you in your lessons and will help your students learn these life skills again that they may need when they go off into the wide world in their own career and that they choose to do. Now, number 5, ask your students to hand their books in open to the newest piece of work. This will save you 15-30 seconds just flipping through books trying to find work when you have 20-30 plus students in your class. And over time, this will save you minutes and hours So get them to hand the work in open for you, so you don't have to worry about flicking through and finding it in their books. Number 6, don't reinvent the wheel. We are our best resource, and so are our colleagues. You've got colleagues around you that have been teaching potentially for years and have produced lesson plans and worksheets, all these resources that if you just ask, you can use them in your lessons. You can adapt them to suit your lessons. All I found in the past is we've had teachers who have taught in the same year group, for example, both teaching year 10, both teaching sports studies classes, Key Stage 4, and they alternate their planning. One person plans a lesson, one person plans the homework, and they alternate it throughout the week, throughout the term. So utilise each other. You may have a shared Google Drive in your department where teachers upload their content, upload their lesson plans and resources. Use it. Go there first and look and see what is on there that you may be able to use. It will save you so much time in terms of your planning. Now, if you don't, you can always go to TES and buy resources on there, because yes, you have to pay to purchase resources. However, it will save you time searching through hours and hours trying to find free resources. That's what I did when I first started teaching my SEN school. I spent so long trying to find free resources online because I didn't want to pay for anything. But actually, paying a couple of pounds, £5 for something is going to reduce your time so much in terms of planning. You can also sign up to a Twinkle subscription. Again, pay monthly. Yes, you're still paying out your own pocket. However, you can at least access resources, download resources for your lesson without searching through and trying to find all these free resources, trying to find resources that you can download without paying for anything. And you may also be able to get it back as a tax rebate anyway. Or you can go in with somebody in terms of a subscription. Someone pays a subscription, but you go halves with them. So you're sharing the same subscription and being able to access and download resources when you need to. So don't reinvent the wheel. Number 7, use sticky notes in your planner. Now this works best if you organise your planner by classes rather than weekly. Because you can then use sticky notes to be able to access lessons and look at lessons quickly if you're teaching the same lesson to multiple classes. So that will save time on your planning, having to plan 5 different lessons if you're teaching it to the same, to different classes within the same year group or across a couple of year groups, depending on ability level. It makes it so much easier if you sticky note your planner so you can find the lesson quickly rather than having to plan over and over again for the same content, same topic area, and the same things that you're going to be teaching to different classes. Instead of planning different lessons, you can just plan one lesson and just adapt it a little bit here and there and sticky note your planner so you can find it a lot easier in your planner. Number 8, and we've all done this at some point in our teaching career, we've picked up a pen thinking it's a whiteboard marker, but it's a permanent marker, and we've written on the board in permanent marker. I remember when I first did this years ago, and I went to somebody in my department who was a lead practitioner. I went, I've written on the board in permanent marker, what do I do? And I was a little bit worried about it, panicked a little bit. He went, don't worry about it, just write over it in normal whiteboard pen, like scribble over it in whiteboard pen and wipe it off. It comes off instantly. Number 9. Now, there are, of course, the spray bottles that we can use for our whiteboards to clean the whiteboards. I don't like using those because the smell gets everywhere and it irritates me a little bit. And I also work in an SEN school, so I don't like using those sprays. So what I actually have, and I actually did this in mainstream as well, I had my own little spray bottle that I had at home that I wasn't using. So I took it into school, filled up with water, and that's what I used to clean my board. I just sprayed my board with water, wiped it down. It gets rid of those horrible marks, dirty marks that just makes your board look horrible and dirty, and it looks nice and clean. Okay, so a little spray bottle of water, nice and easy, and just wipe it down. Number 10, attach a pen to your lanyards that wherever you go, you know you don't have to look for or ask for a pen. Now, we've all been in those meetings and CPD sessions, training, after school, training days, where you go into the meeting, you forget that you haven't taken a pen, you remember you haven't taken a pen, and you're asking people if you can borrow their pen. Now, as teachers, pens to us are gold dust. We hate lending out our pens because we know that potentially it may not come back, and we can't blame teachers for that. Of course we can't. We forget these things, we put things down, we're just constantly putting resources down and picking things up. So what I have those big multicolored pens attached to my lanyard, and it makes it so much easier when it comes to planning in lessons. Just going through and marking in lessons, especially if you've used certain colours. So I have to use green in my lesson. I had to use green at mainstream in my lessons. So having that pen with me just made it really easy to just go around marking in green. And my kids, my students in my SEN provision called it the pen of doom, because I'd go around marking in lessons. I'd say to them, no, it's the pen of progress, not the pen of doom. But always have a pen on you in lessons, you and your TAs, so you can just go around and mark in lessons. Number 11, I also started using a little sanitizer bottle. I have it attached to my lanyard. Now this is really important if you are teaching an SEN provision like me, where you have to administer medication. It's really important because you can sanitize your hands before you administer and after you administer your meds. So very good hack for those that work in SEN schools, or those that like to use hand sanitizer regularly. Have a little bottle on your lanyard so you don't have to worry about fishing around trying to find sanitizer in your classroom or in your bag. And finally, number 12, print visuals and laminate them for your lanyard. Now, I have visuals on my lanyard for my students, visuals such as drink, lunch, toilet, finish, stop, sitting, standing, help. I have the image and the word underneath to support my students that are non-verbal. It just makes it a lot easier for them and myself to be able to communicate. And I also have visuals for my board in my classroom as well. Visuals for the months of the year, the days of the week, different types of weather, so that I can change it throughout each day, so my students know what the day is, what the month is, what the weather's like today. And I also have a visual timetable as well. So I use visuals for my timetable on my whiteboard as well, for my students to be able to see what lessons we have. But I have them on my lanyard specifically so I can communicate a lot easier with my students. Now, if you teach, for example, the IB curriculum like I do, I also have key phrases and statements laminated and attached to my lanyard, so I can use them in my lessons to indicate to my student, or get my students to indicate where they think they are in their learning journey, and for me to be able to show them where I think they are and what I think they've achieved. So it's really good tip for you, life hack. Attach these visuals to your lanyard to support your students in your lessons and to make it a lot easier for you to communicate effectively with them each lesson.